me this shit. You don't know how to start a video. The Blair Witch Files is a book series that was... Don't you rip up my book.
I didn't rip it.
Oh my God. Let me see it.
Look.
Look at the... You really did, bro. You really did.
I didn't.
You really did. That
what are
right
you
there.
talking about?
100%. Look.
What are you talking about? There's no rip.
Right there.
I did not rip that.
100%.
That was, no.
That's not a rip,
No.
but it is an indentation now in a book that I bought in 2000.
We're starting this over.
No, we're not.
Yes.
No, we're not.
It's too chaotic.
It's not chaotic. It's how it's starting, and you destroyed my book.
I didn't.
I've had this and the other 7 books for a very long time. They were in mint condition, and now they're not even good enough for kindling in a fire.
Wow.
Like if I brought this to like a bonfire, they'd be like, no. We need better quality books than that to burn. We're the Nazis. I don't know why I'd be a Nazi fire. Yeah.
Can't argue with that logic.
Shh. It's not over. The Blair Witch lives. For the first time in print, the Blair Witch Files. Disturbing, shocking, horrifying. Can they be true? 17-year-old Cade Merrill is determined to find out the truth. His website, theblairwitchfiles.com, is a clearinghouse for the hundreds of encounters with the unexplained evil that lives in Blair Woods. His files are now open. Case file number 1, the witch's daughter, is Lee Pappert. The Blair Witch's daughter? Is she responsible for 8 gruesome deaths? All right, so I've read 3 of these now. Kaylee has read 1 because she's slow at reading. That's not true. She gets way less time to read because I can read at work and she can't.
Yes.
And that's where I do most of my reading. Yes. And then when it's time for us to read at night, this is Kaylee. And I'm like, she's like, finally time to read. And Kaylee's like out there. She's so excited. And then she's like...
It's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
And it's
because we wait till too late. But tonight we're going to read first.
Yeah. We're
going to read first before we watch our last thing. And she's still going to...
It's because
That's why I don't suggest reading before. Because you fall asleep when you read later.
Yeah.
And then I'll miss out on the movie. So I put the movie on first because then you always stay awake for that.
Miss out on the reading.
Yeah, because you miss out on the reading anyways because you fall asleep.
It's only because we get into bed and I'm comfy in there and it's at the end of the night and my brain just gets tired and that's all. I do a lot better reading like during the day. Like that's when I want to read actively is during the day and in the morning. And it just never works out that we have time to do that. So...
All right, let's talk about this because people don't care about anything but this.
Right.
That's not true. They probably care, but let's just, No, I'm sorry you don't get to read. You're going to get to read more. I promise.
Got it on camera.
And I don't break promises. Only Hyman. No. Not. Nope, moving on. A note from Cade Merrill. So, okay. These are written like they are accounts from this guy's website that he runs. He is Heather Donahue's cousin because in these spin-offs or sequels, somebody's always got to be related to somebody in the film. I feel like, I don't know if John Carpenter started that trend with Halloween too, but man, it's always like, oh, I'm the cousin, I'm the freaking uncle, I'm the 4th nephew removed.
I think that people, it's easy to make the relation when there is a bloodline to follow, because it just especially if something is supernatural or uncanny or whatever, it's like, oh, well, this specific family is cursed or, they just have those experiences. So I think it's kind of an easy way to widen the characters, really, widen the group. I don't hate it in this. I think it's fine. It didn't really bother me that he's related to Heather Donahue. And, truthfully, I feel like it's a really short book.
Yeah. I read book 2 in one day, and I read book 3 in one day as well.
You could absolutely read these in a day. It's 181 pages, and I feel like there's not a whole lot that we get from Cade. There's a couple
in this one.
In this book. There's just a couple blurbs here and there where he's sort of commenting on the story and how he got it, or, just kind of giving his opinion about something. But most of this book follows Justin, and him trying to find out what happened to his grandfather, I don't remember how old he is. He's an elderly man.
He's in his 70s.
That is not doing too great. He's at the hospital, and he's convinced that the Blair Witch is going to come and kill him. And Justin is like, nah.
Well, he's not afraid that the Blair Witch is going to come kill him. It's this girl from his past who should, it doesn't matter. Well, we are talking spoilers. So that is the point
Yes.
here. But if you want to check out this book without us talking spoilers, I like them. And you can get them for cheap. These, of the YA novels that are attached to horror franchises that are older, they're expensive as hell. The Halloween books that I have are super expensive. You're going to spend $250+ on each book. And let me tell you, I've read them. That ain't worth it. They're not very good. They're fun. They're fun.
They're collectors.
They're fun to have
items,
and
really.
fun to read,
Yeah.
but they're not great. But these, I've seen these on eBay for $5. They're cheap. So if you do want to read them, and you're a big Blair Witch fan, and you want to check out something that just kind of expands the lore, I definitely think they're fun. If you're into YA novels and you want to read something about the Blair Witch, they're fun because these do read like novels. It's not just like a report, some like really dry material of like, news documents and this and that.
It's not like the Blair Witch dossier, which is more that style. And I read that and really enjoyed it. But these are more novel style. And the young adult, these are great because you can read them in such a quick amount of time if you are having like a day to kill or whatever. And they're very easy to read. It's not any complicated sentences or like large words. Like, it's made for kids or teenagers, really. But I like them. It reminded me of the kinds of books that I would read when I was like in middle school, late middle school or so. And the
point horror books, like Christopher Pike, Diane Ho. Yeah.
So definitely, if you're into the Blair Witch, it's a recommendation, especially with how cheap they are, and it's just kind of a fun thing that you can say that you've read and be cooler than all the other horror fans
all
out
of
there.
them.
So
all of them. When you go to
that.
like a horror con and people are talking about like, oh, I've met this person, I made Halloween.
you can
be like, listen up, John Carpenter. I've read the Blair Witch Files, all 8 books.
Yeah, and he'd be like,
and then you say, subscribe to Sinister Cinema.
Oh.
And then everyone pulls out their phone and they're like, yes. I don't know why that matters. So the Blair Witch Files, The Witch's Daughter. Now, I'm going to let Kaylee lead this a little because I read this weeks ago. I've been waiting for her to finish it this whole time. I just finished book 3 like yesterday. So the last 2 books are a little more fresh in my mind. But I'm pretty sure I remember almost everything that happened in this. It wasn't that long ago, so.
And there's not that much that happens in terms of like a story because it's so short.
Sure. This starts in the past.
Yeah.
With this girl, Angela, or is that the other book?
That's the other book. This is Lee.
Oh right, Lee. Pappert.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we start with Lee, who ends up at an orphanage, and it's an orphanage for boys. She gets dropped off by her mom, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's like her
aunt.
Her aunt, because her parents die.
Her parents are dead.
And they're like, they don't want her. So they drop her off in an orphanage for boys because there's only an orphanage for boys in the area.
Right.
And
so
they
tell her
don't want, so they make her pretend to be a boy. And she's living there in this orphanage.
Right.
For years as a guy.
She starts to get bullied pretty heavily.
Very heavily.
Once there's just some mean kids that are bullying her before they find out that she's a girl. And then, of course, they find out that she's a girl and it just gets even worse. And then they actually take her and tie her up in a field as like on this really cold day.
Very
as
Ellie
like
Kedward.
as some type of a joke or a prank, or I don't know. They're just trying to be mean.
It's because the guys find out that she's a girl.
Yeah.
And they don't want her there anymore. I don't know why a bunch of teen boys wouldn't want a teen girl around. That seemed very suspect to me. I was thinking they were going to be like, now it's a young adult novel, so I was like, oh, they're not going to rape her. That'd be too much for a book like this. But in reality, when they started taking her out to the tree, I was like, are they going to molest her?
Sure.
Are they going to? But then I'm like, it's a YA novel. I doubt it.
Yeah.
But I just can't, for the life of me, believe that a bunch of teen boys, especially with the fact, and spoilers, guys, remember, we find out that the girl that our main character that we're following throughout this,
Leslie,
like, falls in love with this girl named Leslie, and he describes her as so beautiful and this and that.
Sure.
So if this girl, now granted she's like got a boyish haircut trying to act like a boy, but if she's as pretty as these people are talking about, and these teen boys have them to themselves, they're not kicking her out of there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just
I
not
think,
seeing that happening.
I think it is probably because it's a YA novel. There's no reference to anything sexual.
None at all.
The only thing is just a crush as far as the romance goes. So they're just bullying Lee, and they take her out into the woods and tie her up, and and it sucks because she ends up like well, the owners of the orphanage, like those other, I don't remember her name unfortunately, but it's a husband and wife that run it, and they're both awful.
Dreadful people.
And the woman comes out to find them, and she basically is like, well, we have to send her away because if it ever gets out that we had a girl at our all-boy orphanage, like, it's going to be, it's going to ruin us. So she drives her to another school, or another, not school, but like
another orphanage for
halfway
for
house
girls,
kind of a thing in another city. And on the way there, they get into a car accident, and Lee gets taken by Rustin Parr.
Because this is set in the 40s.
Yeah.
30s or 40s.
And so the way the book is set up is that it jumps. So we start in the past with Lee, and then we kind of go into the future with Justin, who his grandfather is one of the main boys that bullied
1939.
Lee. And his grandfather's name is Harper. And so Justin is visiting his grandfather. He lives in another town, but he's coming there because his grandfather's not doing so well, and he's very paranoid that Lee is going to come back and kill him because supposedly all the other boys that bullied her died in kind of mysterious and, weird ways.
Yeah.
And I do think that he says that he does kind of call her the Blair Witch. I know that he talks about her as Lee, but I'm pretty sure I remember that he called her the Blair Witch because that's what he thought she had become, or whatever. So anyway, Justin does not believe him whatsoever. No. And he runs into, at the hospital, a really pretty girl named Leslie, who is in fact Lee's granddaughter, who he has this massive crush on, and
they start investigating together.
Right.
And that reveal that she's related doesn't come on till much later. And so, yeah, I mean, they basically investigate it, and we find out little bits more and more. And, in the end, they go out to, this field, and he's, his grandfather ends up dying with only Lee in the room. Or, yeah, Lee, right?
Leslie, yeah. Yes. He doesn't quite die, but it's she trips over one of his cords or something.
No, that's earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about that.
I'm talking about in the end, because it's not really a ton that happens elsewise. We really just get to their investigation, and then he finds out some stuff, and they go to investigate this area together where there's this dead, mutilated cow.
Yes, yeah.
And then she admits that that his grandfather's Lee Pappert is her grandmother.
Yeah.
And then they started looking into the lineage of her family and being like, this is insane. This is so crazy. Like, what are the odds kind of thing. In the end, there's a really weird thing. And I was waiting to talk to you about it because we haven't talked about this book at all in any way, shape, or form. And we were kind of saving it for this.
Yeah.
So the end is very bizarre. Like, so... our main guy, Justin, he comes out to meet Leslie. And when, like, she's out there and she tells him that, like, this was all, like, not real. And it was all, like, some, like, not prank, but, like, she was lying to him because it was going to make it seem like she was, you know, possessed and was actually the ghost of this person and all this. But then she was just like, no, like, I've just been fooling you this whole time.
I think that okay, so what I understood, so...
I'm not saying that's it. What I'm saying is, like, it starts with that, and I was like, oh, this is a big cop-out.
Yeah.
I don't like this at all. But then it, like, kind of ominously leaves you off on this note of, like, that ruse was actually a ruse.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. I think that she sort of is, because she's Lee. Leslie is Lee.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's not Lee's granddaughter. She's actually her. And I think that she kind of, you know, because Justin has feelings for her and stuff, and she sort of just tries to throw him off her trail, basically.
Sure, she doesn't want to hurt him because he's not responsible for anything.
Right. So it is a little odd, the ending. My favorite parts of this book was definitely the time that we spent with Lee when she's in Rustin Parr's house, and you have the Blair Witch interacting with her and telling her that she's her mother and that she'll protect her and be there for her, and then just kind of all of the... It was really unsettling, actually.
It was creepy.
You know, like hearing
the
descriptions of the kids, like, screaming and crying in other rooms, and then, you know, she even goes and finds this kid... who's in a room and is, like, telling her, like, it's scary. Like, it's really scary.
And she's with the one kid who survives and is the one who kind of runs back and is what gets Rustin Parr captured and killed. Is, like, Leslie was supposedly, or Lee, sorry, was supposedly there with the kids. And she was listening to them, like, as they were being killed.
Right.
One by one.
It's pretty messed up. Like,
it's real dark. And it was very unsettling. The way that the Blair Witch is described in this in shadow. And she never really saw her face. And, like, she would kind of, like, whisper things to her.
Yeah.
And it was really creepy. That, by far and away, is the best part of the book. And the bullying stuff is really tough to read.
Yeah, it is. I really got Mama vibes as well. Like, the whole time I was like, it's Mama. So I was really there for that, because I think that the Blair Witch as a character, you know, Ellie Kettard is, like, she's sympathetic, right? Like, she is kind of this, you know, creature that's born from being abused and misunderstood, you know? And that's what's really great about witches in general, is that they often are that kind of a character, right? Where it's like society puts this on them. Like, there are results of how the town or people treat them. And I like that the Blair Witch is that, at least for me in my interpretation of her. So this book, it was cool to see her kind of as, you know, I mean, she's not good at all, but just showing her in that more sympathetic light, you know. So I was into it.
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed all three that I've read so far. I'm reading them in order as, like, the case file numbers. There doesn't seem to be any connection to them other than Cade is the one that is writing these stories, but there's been no reference to any of the other books in his other books, which is kind of sad. I wish there would be more references.
Hoping that would be something to look forward to.
But I will tell you, spoilers for the second book, sort of. The whole second book is about Cade and someone he meets.
Very cool.
And so that's all through him. So you will spend plenty of time with Cade in the next book. And then the third book takes place in a camping trip for kids, which I really liked as well. So I liked book 2 and 3 a good amount, and I liked this one a lot too. Like, they're simple reads. There's not a ton of depth to them, but I feel like what works really works well. Like the Blair Witch stuff, as you said, when she's there, and Rustin Parr and all that stuff is actually like way creepier and scarier than I would have expected in a YA novel. So that stuff's really well done. The abuse that she goes through in the home is really messed up. And you know, the Justin and Leslie stuff, all that stuff is like typical teen fiction. Right?
Sure.
Like it's kind of a little bit more happy-go-lucky, upbeat. Justin's like so smitten over this girl, and he's like, you know, trying to talk to his father, and there's that feels more in line with the YA horror novels like that, like feel more like a Fear Street Goosebumps type of thing, where the horror is kind of very surface level, like where it's like, oh, and then there was a shadow in the corner.
Sure.
But like when you get into the past stuff with Rustin Parr and the Blair Witch, that's like straight up,
it's pretty heavy,
full on adult horror.
Absolutely.
For sure.
It's
so
bullying and
surprised me.
child abuse. So it's definitely much more adult than you'd expect it to be. I really, I mean, we're going to keep reading the books. Obviously, he's read, you know, you've read 2 more than I have. But if you guys liked this review and want us to keep talking about them, we will, because we'd like to do more book reviews on the channel.
Absolutely.
He is reading
Go ahead.
My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Because the movie is coming out soon, and I've already read it, so we'll talk about that, and we can do maybe a movie and book comparison video.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys like book reviews, you can comment below with books that you would recommend for us to read. For right now, we're going to stick to some fun YA novels. I definitely want to read the Halloween ones.
Yeah.
Talk about them on the channel. I want to read the Friday the 13th ones. I've been really, really wanting to get back to those. I read those when I was a kid. Mother's Day and Jason's Curse and Road Trip and all that stuff. And the Carnival. Like, those are all really fun. Some we haven't been able to get our hands on. Like the Jason X novels and stuff like that. And those are really, really expensive. And it sucks because I would love to read them, but I can't afford all of them. And then I have a bunch of those like virtual, like the Freddy's books as well. But I don't have all of them, and they're outrageously expensive now. They're hundreds of dollars a piece now, and it's so annoying because when I was collecting these things, they were giving them away, you know. But now everything's cool and nostalgic, so it's expensive. But yeah. If you guys ever even heard of these books, I've never heard a single person talk about them ever once in my life. But not everybody has every single Blair Witch trading card either. So
that's true.
We can't all be so cool.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, The Witch's Daughter.
Yeah.
Case file number 1. Case file number 2, hopefully in the next week or so. I got to crack the whip on Kaylee, but she wants to start reading a different book, so I don't see how that's going to be possible. But you can read one of these so fast if you get some time. So we'll try to figure it out. Other than that, let us know what you think of these reviews. And I mean, I know a lot of you are just going to stay and listen to it because you're never going to read these, and that's fun too. So we'll try to make that entertaining. You can kind of get a general idea of the books just by listening to our spoiler discussions on it, because I know most of you aren't going to have any interest in actually reading them, but just listening to it. I get it. You get the gist. So what do you think? Does that sound like a decent book to you? Do you like the idea of this guy kind of reaccounting people's stories and putting them in novel form, like their case files? I think it's a cool idea.
I do too.
You know, and he wrote all 8 of these in like a year after the movie was released.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome.
Super fast.
Yes.
Cool stuff. I look forward to reading the other 5. So, until next time, bye.